You're listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin, and this is the show where you get expert advice about the heavy duty parts you buy and sell and keep you informed about what's happening in the industry. Do you repair trailers? We are giving away a ProCheck 720. This is a commercial trailer automatic light and electrical tester valued at over $1,000. It takes just 5 seconds to enter. Go to jamieirvin.ca/giveaways. That's jamieirvin.ca/giveaways. Sign up today and you could be the new owner of one of these awesome tools. Diagnosing air and electrical problems on a trailer can be frustrating. Today we get to talk about a solution that will allow a single technician to perform a full trailer inspection in one trip around the trailer. I don't know about you, but that sounds like saving a lot of time. We're going to learn a lot more about that. Robert Zender is the Director of Product Sales at Lite-Check, and today we are going to talk all about diagnosing and repairing air and electrical problems on trailers. Robert, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jamie.
So, Robert, tell us the story of how Lite-Check was founded and what problem in the industry did they originally set out to solve?
Yeah, so great question. Lite-Check was founded in 1985. We're dedicated to providing the best technology for testing semi-trailers. All the circuit design, firmware, software, air delivery, operating systems are designed by Lite-Check engineering team. The products are assembled here, final tested in-house. So we have a very low warranty repair rate of 0.5% or so. Our success is due to participation in national organizations like TMC, CVSA, IANA, CTEA. We give special attention, though, to the TMC recommended practices in compliance to the federal enforcement regulations. The quality products and the user satisfaction are the goals. I mean, that's the most important thing to us is here at Lite-Check. During the 1990s, Lite-Check delivered trailer testers on contract to the California State Patrol, U.S. military, Department of Energy, U.S. Post Office. The result of developing these products was focused on design, materials, and assembly of products for long life durability. So, yeah.
So for people who have listened to the show for a while, they keep hearing TMC. That's the Technology and Maintenance Council. It's really focused on fleets. And it sounds to me that at the beginning, this company set out to provide a high-quality product that was going to make life easier and also was going to kind of elevate the standard in diagnosing and repair of trailers. And then, of course, the company must have adapted as technology changed on those trailers. I mean, there's a big difference between a trailer manufactured in 1985 and 2020.
Absolutely. I completely concur with that. I mean, one of the first testers was nothing more than a couple of gauges and some switches, and now it's ABS, roll stability. We have smart trailers coming down the pipeline, and our testers we're always trying to forward think with that and think about how we can better serve that market when it does appear.
So I'd like to talk about the Inspector 920. Can you describe what this tool is? And keep in mind, people are listening while they're driving or in their offices. They don't all watch the YouTube channel, so it's not like we're going to show a visual today. We're just going to describe it. Describe to me the Inspector 920, what it does, what makes it a superior tool.
Yeah, so the beauty of it, you just hook it up to the nose of the trailer, the 7-way, the glad hands, and then you grab a hold of the remote control. You walk around, you activate the different lighting circuits. You can activate the air brakes with the remote control. So one technician is doing this, and then you get back around. Once you do your one trip around, you get back to the front of the trailer and you press a button and your ABS loads up and you get all the codes active and stored faults, mileage, the serial number, all of that information within a minute. So it streamlines it. Most shops, a lot of times, before they find our tester, we'll use 2 technicians to diagnose air systems. One guy up there activating the air, the other guy down there looking. Same thing with the lights. One guy activating lights, other guy down there trying to fix things. or they'll have a switch box that they have to walk to the front of the trailer and go back, to check the air, go back to the switch box, check it, change something, and then go back to the back of the trailer. So lots of trips or multiple technicians. Ours streamlines that down to one technician, one process, one trip around that trailer. So
this might be an obvious question, but I haven't used the product or seen it myself. So that control that the technician is holding, that's wireless. It's not like a wired, that big long 50 cable, or is it that way?
no, it's a wireless like you're talking about. Not only that, but it's designed for range of like doing triple trailers if you have to. So it really streamlines the process because you want to do your visual walk around and look at all those different lights. Well, our remote allows you to walk around, and as you're walking around, you activate all the markers at one time and do your tail lights and things like that. You can actually do that visual inspection as you're going around. We have alarms on there, audible, and also it puts on the display actually what's happening in those different circuits too.
So a couple more questions just about that process. The actual control that they hold in their hands as they're walking around. What is the user experience like? That is it really clear, well labeled, like big buttons? Like how is it designed?
Great question. So yeah, we divide the remote control up into three parts, as we have air, electrical, and ABS. Because if you wanted to, you could actually use the remote to do the ABS. But the top portion is the air. Three buttons for the air, really clearly marked. And then the middle section is the lights. You have all the different circuits on there. And those buttons are in their own separate section. And then on the bottom is the ABS button. So, and then the other part about it is you don't have to sit there and really press hard on the buttons or nothing. It's just a quick press, boom, you're into the whatever system you decided to use.
It would be wonderful if all of our technicians had perfectly climate controlled, clean shops. Let's face it, sometimes these guys, we love them for what they do because they're out in the weather. They're out, in northern Canada where I am, they're in the cold. I can imagine in the desert where it's hot and sandy. Then you're in the south and, there's a lot of humidity. So what have you done to ensure that this product stands up to the elements?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things is inside the system, our circuit boards are actually sealed. They're suspended, so if there's any standing water, that it's not going to get right on the board. Not only that, but we've actually sold our tester to some of the largest service providers across the country, which means that they're up in Alaska, they're in Canada, they're in North Dakota, Minnesota, Illinois, and things like that, and it's on their service trucks, and they last a long time, and they do really well on different elements. So up in the colder, all the way down to Arizona, down in lower Texas, Mexico, our tester goes pretty much everywhere.
So I've had a couple iterations of my career. I started off remanufacturing when we were in the manufacturing plant, but later on, I actually started a contracting business in '09, sold it in 2016. So in both of those occasions, when I worked in a manufacturing plant as a shop foreman and an operations manager, and when I owned my own contracting business, one of the things I talked to my guys about all the time was that the amount of steps that you take every day, they don't seem like a lot, but they add up. And so
Oh,
you want to be able to plan out your movements to minimize the amount of wasted time and maximize
yeah.
productivity. Now let's talk about productivity with the Inspector 920. Typically, from that system you described with two technicians to using your system, what kind of productivity gains could a service provider or a repair facility expect to get with your product?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Technicians and managers alike are not only see a serious increase in productivity anywhere, and I say this extremely conservatively, 25 to 50%. But they also, the beauty of our system is it's detail orientated when it comes to the diagnosis. So you'll see more thorough diagnosis. Whereas the previous methods, a lot of times guys will use homemade boxes and they'll just flip a switch, and if the light comes on, that's all the information they get. Well, with our system, if you select a circuit, you'll actually get the voltage, the amperage, you'll know what pin it is, what system, what color the wire is. I mean, and is it a short between the marker and the tail? or anything like that. You get all that information by hitting a switch. So it's a lot higher quality on the diagnosis. So this makes the shop more efficient and effective at the same time. So very conservative, 25 to 50%.
That's significant. That's a lot. When you think about the fact that labor is definitely the most expensive part of any repair, regardless of what parts you're buying, man, 25 to 50% on the diagnosis side is a big deal. You've been listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin. We've been speaking with Robert from Lite-Check. Now, Robert, we're talking about the Inspector 920. We're talking about diagnosing trailers. How much training is required when a shop adopts this new technology into their company? I'm not just thinking about the training of using the system, but also maybe changing their systems and the way that they go about repair. So what's that like?
Yeah, great question. So the beauty of our system, you brought up the actual features of the system itself as one aspect, but then the process is a whole nother aspect. And the fact is that our system is a disruptive product when it comes to the shop process. But the fact that we make it so intuitively designed with the technician in mind, a lot of technicians, probably 90% of them, will grab the remote, will walk around a trailer and have that trailer diagnosed in 15 minutes or less, kind of thing. Whereas before, like I said, multiple tools to diagnose multiple systems and multiple technicians. So, um, yeah, very little training. However, if somebody does need training, we offer free webinars for training where I have a light box here. I have my trailer in a box that represents a trailer, has an ECU in it and everything. And I do it through webinars. I train them, and also we do it over the phone, courtesy training and help. And we have training videos. So all sorts of methods to help that shrink that learning curve, if you will. But ultimately, 90% really don't need much training at all, if any.
So, how important is it for technicians to have sufficient data when diagnosing and completing repairs? You already kind of gave us that illustration of the way it's done, where they just get, oh, the light's on, great, but that's not enough data. So, how important really is it? Give us some context there.
Yeah. So example, back in the day, not too long ago, there was a lot more incandescent bulbs and lamps on trailers, and those are fairly cheap and quick to change out a bulb. So sometimes in the past that would be an effective way to do it. You just turn it on. If the lights don't come on, you go throw a bulb in there. If that doesn't work, then you move to the fixture or whatever have you. But today we have LED lamps, and those are a lot more expensive when it comes to lamps and replacing those in the process a lot of times. And so having a tester like ours where it actually tells you, hey, you have a circuit to circuit short, or you have a short to the chassis, or you have an open system or an open ground, and gives you more detail on that to help direct you closer to the actual problem. So that reduces the time when it comes to completing those repairs.
So, when you improve the accuracy of what you're repairing on the trailer and you get it done right the first time, this has an impact on parts. This is, after all, the Heavy Duty Parts Report. So we got to talk about parts. What impact does getting it right that first time have on parts purchases?
Yeah, great question, Jamie. Commonly we hear this all the time is technicians will throw parts at the problem, thinking they know what the problem is just off the top of their head because they've seen it through experience or whatnot. But time, parts, warranty, they all add up. Whereas diagnosing a problem quickly and correctly with the inspector can have a drastic effect on the bottom line. An example is when ABS came out. We were in conversations with the manufacturers, and one of their biggest warranty claims was ECUs being warranty replaced. When, in fact, when the manufacturers would test those, they'd be working just fine. So people were replacing these ECUs when they could have just been a sensor or a power issue. And come to find out, with our tester, you can actually, one of the tests you can do is a power test, and 20 to 30% of those are just power issues, not the actual ECU. So the beauty of our system is it reduces the throwing parts at a situation to solve the problem because you have the more accurate diagnosis. I mean, we tell you what the volts are that are being supplied to an ECU. And everybody knows that when you get down to a certain voltage, the ECU is not even going to act or engage. And the other thing is it may throw ghost codes, you know. But our tester will tell you that in a matter of a second. You push the button and boom, you have the information.
So how does finding small problems prevent larger problems later on when repairing a trailer?
Yeah, so this is a really important question in my mind, and the reason is because you take an example, correcting a simple wheel speed sensor on the ABS will keep the system operating and can prevent disastrous accidents. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? We want everybody to be safe, we want the equipment to work, and not taking care of those problems because you don't know they're there can add up in the long run and actually cause accidents and people to get hurt and loss of property and things like that. Break-in still cited as the number one issue on the CVS brake safety week. But a technician being able to use our remote to walk back there and check the braking system visually instead of just hitting a gauge or something like that up at the front or a valve or something. Him seeing that visually can actually help him see worn out parts and things like that, make sure the slacks are engaging at the same time and things, because he actually gets to see it in action. So save a lot of headache there.
Yeah, as you were describing that, a couple of things came to mind. So with the braking system, I mean, certainly being able to see those parts is that visual inspection is so important. I'm also thinking of a colleague of mine, Rick Nex from Trucklight, and he's a real specialist on wiring harnesses. And when I talk to him, man, the stories that guy has about issues that have come up in trailers with the whole wiring system, where people are trying to diagnose the problem and they're doing what they think is the right thing, but it just creates this monster where they end up having to rip out the whole thing and start over from scratch. And sometimes those trailers are only like 3 years old. And so I can see how with your system being able to get the right information, the right data, and the right fault code, if you will, is just critical to making sure these trailers last as long as possible.
Absolutely. You make me think of another quick story on that is that, we have a test in our ABS portion called the wheel speed test. And the technician just has to jack up a trailer and spin a wheel, and we'll list all the sensors on the trailer. And they, as ports on ECU are created all equal. So what happens is technicians will plug the wrong sensor into the wrong port. So you don't know if yellow 1's there where it's supposed to be or anything like that. So with this test, they spin the wheel and it'll hold the RPMs right where on whatever sensor is associated with that wheel. So it helps to direct them to those actual problems more effectively.
Robert, if there's one thing you want the listeners to take away from today's conversation, what's that one thing?
In the past, homemade light boxes and things like that could get you by. But with the, technology as it's moving forward, trailers are becoming more advanced. We need more advanced tools, and technicians are going to school and they're learning these new technologies, and they know that they need these more advanced pieces of equipment to actually help them do their job more effectively. And we want to supply them with the equipment. We want to make sure that everybody's in compliance, and we want to make sure that we don't have accidents. And our tool is designed to help solve those problems and help everybody move forward into the next generation. So.
You've been listening to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin, and we've been speaking with Robert from Lite-Check. Today, we only had time to talk about the Inspector 920, but Lite-Check has many more tools. So to learn more, go to light-check.com. Links are in the show notes, and Lite is spelled L-I-T-E. So that's LITE-check.com. Again, links are in the show notes. Robert, thank you for being on HDPR.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you.
Have you subscribed to our weekly email yet? Go to jamieirvin.ca/email and subscribe today. Never miss out on any content or great deals again. Go to jamieirvin.ca/email and subscribe today. I'd like to remind everyone to focus on cost per mile over purchase price and Let's keep those trucks and trailers rolling. You can watch our next video, and don't forget, subscribe to the YouTube channel.